So if you want a breakdown of that segment by Will Calhoun with the band Living Colour, stay tuned. Welcome. In my last video, I had the great pleasure of interviewing the fantastic Will Calhoun. It was really a lot of fun. And in that video, we discussed a piece of music that he played on with Living Colour called This Little Pig. And I promised that I'd do a breakdown of it. So here it is. And before I get into it, however, please make sure to hit the red subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you are reminded of every time that I upload a new video. Will Calhoun is a fantastic drummer who continues to play with Living Colour. Normally at this time in these videos, I give a little rundown on the drummer and talk about his or her attributes. But all you have to do is check out my video. I'll give you the link right here. That's called Who's That Drummer? In Conversation with Will Calhoun. Trust me, you'll find it fascinating. Will is an incredibly interesting person and a good hang. So this little pig was constructed or composed on an album, for an album called Stain by Living Colour that came out in 1993, I believe. Now, 1993 was the year after the very infamous Los Angeles riots that was in response to a not guilty verdict handed down in Los Angeles against some police officers who beat a man by the name of Rodney King close to death, quite frankly, and the mayhem that ensued after. It was a pretty horrific time in America and the world. But it was enough to bring the kind of consciousness that exists now. So that's the real difference. When they were composing this music, it was a song in of itself, but they used to play it just straight up. They'd start the song right on. Will let us all know in my interview with him that Vernon Reed, the guitar player, really wanted some chaos before the song started that would sort of represent the incredible mayhem that ensued during that time and the uncertainty that ensued during that time. Thus, this pretty phenomenal drum intro. Will said at first they tried doing it free, just sort of chaotic sounds that would lead into the groove of the tune off the top of the tune, to sort of hear it. Then they tried playing a 20-bar intro. Evidently, there were some good takes of that. But they settled on this 16-bar intro that seemed to be just the right length with the right amount of craziness. I don't know, it always fascinated me. So I had to bring it up with him to see how it was put together and some of the ins and outs of it. And I decided to do a transcription for you all and perform it and break it down for you. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's take a look at the voyage that Will takes us on for these 16 bars. Just so you know, up front, I'm playing all of this stuff quite a bit slower than the actual tempo at 150 BPM. The actual tempo is around 198 BPM. So it's a fair amount slower, just so that it can be a little more clear for you. Okay, so the first thing you hear from him is a pickup into the 16 bars, right? 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, that's copacetic. Now, what is to note is that the overall feel of these 16 bars is kind of like a halftime feel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of I think what's being framed, okay? But of course, there's a little magic going on. Okay, so the first bar, that is set up quite clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the second bar, also downbeat and the end of 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now this is where things get interesting. Will launches into these tom fills that are really intense and in your face. They start on the end of 3 and end on 2. So they sound like they're starting, well, they start on the end of 3, but the fact that it goes over the bar line obscures where you are right away, unless you're counting. It's kind of hard to hear that. And here's the pattern for that. I'll play all of bar 2 and bar 3. Or first, well, yeah, all of bar 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So when you get into that, at the end of those tom fills, going into, those cymbal crashes, you end on 2, and then you immediately start playing upbeats on the cymbals. So now you're, 1 is pretty obscured. Like, you're not really sure where you are on the bar. And plus, it's very dynamic. And it's like there's a phrase being set up that runs alongside where you are on the bar, if that makes any sense. It's like there's a phrase that's happening that pulls your ear away from where the real downbeats are. Going into bar 4, we continue these cymbal crashes in a rhythmic pattern. It's like the end of that cymbal crash phrase. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then the beat 4 going into 1, that's where things really kind of unsettle the listener. Although you know everything's in time, he's going to play a 4-stroke rough, right, left on the feet, landing on 1. This is something discussed in the video, my last video with Will. And when that 1 comes in, it feels like the halftime feel for some reason. It feels like it's 3 or 2, depending on how you're counting. So I'll play bar 4 into bar 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that 1 takes you out. I'll keep going after that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So now the listener is completely unsettled. It's like, it sounds like chaos. It sounds like things have gone off the rails, but they haven't. And on top of that, Vernon's doing the craziness that he does. And then in bar 7, Will brings it back to the halftime feel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 7 and 8. But by the time you get there, you're really not sure where things are. You're really not sure if the snare drum you hear in 7 is 3 or if it's 1. So then everything that comes after that, again, feels unsettled. And going into the next set of 8 bars of the 16-bar phrase, I think of this 16-bar phrase as 2 phrases of 8. That's how I look at it. I generally do that whenever I'm playing. If I have to count 16 bars, I'll count 8 bars and 8 bars because, I get lost easy. So that prevents me from getting lost when I'm counting. All right, so going into bar 1 of the next set of 8 bars, he avoids 1. And the next thing you hear in bar 1 is him coming in on 2 with a single bass drum fill into 3. So now he's really back to the halftime feel at that point. And that's kind of maintained. But again, by the time you get there, you kind of can't tell. 1, Okay, that's going from bar 1 into bar 2 of the next set of 8 bars. All right, and then after that, he starts to play sort of a melodic thing on the toms, which is pretty downbeat oriented. Now, after you get to know it, it sounds and feels like they're regular downbeat oriented in halftime tom fills with the ride cymbal. But because of all the shenanigans that went on in the first half of this thing, you're not really sure. You're not really sure where it is. All you know is that it's grooving real hard. So you just have to sort of resign yourself to that. That's why I think it's so effective and feels so good. Even though there's chaos, it's locked. All right, I'll play bars 1 through 4, the second 8-bar phrase of the overall 16-bar phrase. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the next little segment, starting from the end of 3 of bar 4, always counting, of bar 4, the second group of 8th notes in the overall 16th note bar phrase. That's long and winded, isn't it? The same thing happens as happened in bar 3 at the top of the thing. 2 and 3, that is. In that he kind of obscures where 1 is, because the tom fills go over the bar line again, ending on the end of 2 into some cymbal accents once again. So I'll start in bar 4 of the second 8th bars of the overall 16-bar phrase. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, so again, because it goes over the bar line like that, the tom fill makes you question exactly where 1 is, right? And then from there, he plays a cymbal accent into another 4-stroke rough on beat 2 of bar 6. You know how I'm thinking of this, right? I'm not going to go through the whole spiel again. Of bar 6. So that snare drum actually is, or it seems like it's 3 again. It has that feeling like it's 3, and it seems to pop out of nowhere. And then from there, he's really setting up the downbeat that's going to now have us build up into the tune. And if you remember what Will was talking about, it's very important that going into that hardcore section where we're playing all 4 beats. He wanted to do something that was going to lead into it in a very smooth way. That's why there's all this emphasis of accenting on 1 and obscuring the fact that halftime feel really is the real feel. He sort of implies it without playing it, and but really what's happening is he's leading your ear to the downbeat of the hardcore thing, which is, downbeat 1, 2, 3, 4, hitting everything on 1. Okay? Sort of a different way of thinking of play it on the 1, not the George Clinton approach. Okay? All right. So here is how the phrase ends. I'll start at the end of 3 in bar 4. And you know where I'm talking, right? Which is actually 9, 10, 11, 12 in terms of bar numbers. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that takes you through the whole thing, bar by bar, and it's pretty clever. It's interesting when you think technically of how he represented something that had a lot of deep meaning at the time and still does. and I think Will captured the chaos of that era or that period in American and world history really well. Okay, so I want to move on just to give you guys a little bit of insight as to how to be able to play this and to make it fit in 16 bars. And honestly, the best way is to be able to count while you play it. When you need to play structured solos, there's the solo, and then there's also keeping a track of where you are in the solo. That's of paramount importance. Um, I know a lot of folks probably say, well, I can feel the phrases after a while, and that is true. Um, After a while, you definitely can sense 4 bars and 8 bars and 12 bars and 16 bars, even 32 bars. You can feel it. But I've had just enough train wreckage in my life to know that it's way more prudent to keep your counter going. You know, the guy with the clipboard in the top of your head. That was bar 1, that was bar 2, that was bar 3. You want to make sure that that is acute and working. So what I recommend you do is, yeah, slow the thing down like I have and practice playing this thing while counting out loud. Okay, so I'm going to give it a shot right now. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. 5, 2, 3, 4. 6, 2, 3, 4. 7, 2, 3, 4. 8, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. 5, 2, 3, 4. 6, 2, 3, 4. 7, 2, 3, 4. 8, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, so there you have it. Yeah, that's kind of tricky, you know. And when you count out loud and play that stuff, it doesn't seem quite as mysterious as it sounds. Okay. The other thing that is prominent in this section is Will's use of the 4-stroke roughs. These things, right? All right. That's something that's in his vocabulary and uses it quite often with great effect, I might add. So I came up with a very simple way of working on that because it is it's not a particularly natural thing to play. You know, the example that uses that's very prominent here is when he does this, leading to 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there. That's quite prominent. So here's the exercise. I'll do it half as fast as this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then in reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so yeah, this is just a quick look at Living Colors, This Little Pig, and Will's playing on it. Once again, I highly recommend you check out my interview of him in the In Conversation with Calhoun video I did last time. It's really pretty amazing. Not so much my interviewing of him, but Will is revealing some stuff a lot of people don't know about him, which I'm really pleased that I was able to lead the path for him to be able to express that. He talks a lot about, you know, not just things in his past, but sort of his perspective on how things came down musically with the people he associated with and played with. And I've heard from a lot of, you know, great players who are like, wow, Aubrey, I didn't know that about Will. Huh, fascinating. There will be more interviews to come. from other great drummers. So if you like this video, please like it and share it. Go to aubreydrumlessons.com for more drumming info. Also, I am doing online virtual lessons via Skype or Zoom now. So don't hesitate to get in touch with me through aubreydrumlessons.com. And I can be reached or DM'd on Instagram. Okay, so you can check me there. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching my video. I'm really glad you did that. Subscribe and click here if you want more performance and lesson videos.